fervor. I'm glad to report, I traveled all the way back to Hawaii, and a few folks said, "Whoa, we're glad you came back." And I said, I was glad that, after a couple of months here, that the ticket that y'all booked for me to come back was still good. Especially after we loaded all of our household goods into a container last week and watched it roll down the road. Some people have asked, they said, "Well, when do you expect your goods?" I think, honestly, they're probably still in the port in Honolulu. Everything's got to wait for this, wait for that. They said 6 to 8 weeks. I think that was optimistic of them. But I am happy to report I came back here this week and we signed papers and closed on a home. So we are proud owners of a home right here in Lake Highlands and setting down roots. Even if the house is empty, it's still ours. So it'll be a little while. The kids came back with me. I sent them on to their grandparents in South Carolina, where they're having a great time. All 6 cousins from my side of the family are together, and they're capturing some great pictures and kind of making me wish that I might even be there for the week. They're having a lot of fun. But really, we're anxious to all be back together in 2 weeks. My wife will be here, and a few days later, the kids will get back with my parents. And so, July should be a lot of fun. Right? We're going to have a chance to kind of reconnect with the congregation as a family, and we're really excited about that. Excited about the home. And I'm excited that my folks will be here for a few days too. I'm thinking I might even be able to talk my dad into preaching one Sunday. So that, now he has to get that. That kind of seals the deal. And next week too, I have to say we have a special guest preacher, a friend of mine who's going to be a missionary overseas. He's going to be traveling overseas with his entire family to do mission work in Indonesia. He's going to be here and preach next week. So you don't want to miss it next week. You want to come here. Clayton, a priest I met while serving in Hawaii, is traveling through Dallas, and when I heard that, I said, "Well, what are you doing on Sunday?" He says, "I don't know." I said, now you do. So we'll be blessed by his presence. He and his family will be here with us next week, so don't miss that. Now, I would say it was a fabulous 4th of July here in Texas. I understand a mild one by Dallas standards weather-wise. And we enjoyed, several of us walked in the parade yesterday, and we shared the good news of Ascension and invited some folks. So if there's new folks here this morning or new folks wander in, I hope that you'll welcome them in their journey, and we're excited that might bring a few folks in. We gathered and had quite a picnic out here last night as well. And I think the readings actually matched up well for the 4th of July weekend as well. I do have to say, in rereading this, I was a little bit concerned. I'm a little bit convicted when Jesus sends his disciples out and says, take no purse, just one tunic, the sandals on your feet. After having watched all these household goods go into a giant shipping container, maybe I missed the mark. And then I told Randy, who's been such a generous host to me, I said, scripturally it says when you enter a new place, you take the first offer, you start living there, and you don't move. Sorry, Randy. Guess we're going to be there a while. The rest of the family will be here soon, too. I'm grateful for the hospitality I have received from Randy. It's been a lot of fun, and it's been a good way to get to know a bit about Dallas as well. Now, in all seriousness, I do feel there's this tension in the gospel. There's this kind of a 2-part gospel, and we're going to be continuing on in Mark 6 for the next couple of weeks, so we'll have to stay tuned to see what else unfolds there. It's the first time in the Gospel of Mark where Jesus is referenced in the light of, he references himself as a prophet, but it's in context of Isaiah. And it relates to that second part of the passage too, where God commanded Isaiah to walk through the community naked, no robe, no sandals, kind of an audacious kind of a story. People think the Old Testament is boring sometimes, but Isaiah's wandering around naked, symbolic of almost like a prisoner of war, and a reminder of the judgment that's to come. Unfortunately, it's not all of that, but we have this notion where Jesus, even as he preached in his hometown, even as people were astounded at the wisdom and impressed by the deeds that he did there, still they did not welcome him. Now, I feel like in some sense, I may have embraced this, all right. People wondered how I went from growing up in Wisconsin to serving in places like Alaska and Hawaii, and now Dallas. It's like, well, clearly I couldn't be a preacher in my hometown. And so I had to wander far away in order that whatever I might share might be heard. And actually, when I was back in Hawaii, we were at camp for a couple of days, and I got to visit with a young man I saw come up through the process. He's been at Virginia. He was just ordained a deacon, and he was, in Hawaii, it's pretty casual. It was one of the, and then a lot of the clergy don't wear a collar every day at church. And he says, I think I'm going to have to wear a collar for like the first 5 years, just so they can differentiate between the old jar of growing up and this is named jar, and the ordained jar. And I said, yeah, probably, maybe even longer. And so I was trying to provide some encouragement to him, but in reality, I mean, it is one of the challenges we face as we grow up in a community. Sometimes old connotations are attached, and sometimes moving around, it's sometimes moving beyond the family home where we've kind of come into our own. Now, the second part of the gospel, I imagine, challenges each of us in some sense. I think living in a consumer culture, we are sometimes tempted to apply it to our spiritual life, to our church life, to our life in Christ. And we try to find things, whether they're books, whether they're items that we can place in our lives, whether they're whatever it might be, and try to add things on that we might become better disciples. And I think what this gospel commends to us is instead an emptying of self in order that we might find the fullness of God. And I think it's a challenge for us in many ways. Again, I'm particularly convicted by this as all of my goods went into a big shipping container, and at some point they'll provide us a number, the total weight of our household items. And I know that I'll be somewhat convicted by that number as it arrives. Although, I must say, they gave us an initial estimate when we, we'll see where it comes in at. When they revised the estimate after we got rid of some stuff, Chris Boulding said, do you have anything left? Well, we got plenty. Too much. In preparation, a couple of years ago, to walk the Camino Trail to Santiago, as some of our youth have done, and probably some of you have done in your lives, a pilgrimage journey, the group that I was walking with read a book titled To Walk Far, Carry Less. Seems like pretty practical advice. You could even just stick to the title, perhaps. Makes sense. The less you carry, the farther you're going to be able to make it, right? I mean, it's not a challenging concept. And it did a nice job of outlining kind of the pilgrim's path and the notion that the reality when you're backpacking is you want to carry less stuff because it does enable you to walk farther and to walk with greater ease. But their notion was also that the things that we fill the backpack with, the things we fill our homes with, the things we fill our lives with, are often things that help us combat our fears and our worries. So the book's notion that you walk far, carry less, they said, you're really just carrying your worries on your back. You're worried that maybe you'll spill food on your shirt at lunchtime, so you put an extra shirt in. You're worried about delays along the way. You may pack an entire extra outfit. You're worried that maybe you'll slip and your shoes will get wet, so you pack an extra pair of shoes. And you're worried that one book might not be enough to read along the way, so you're going to pack 2 books. And now it's really heavy. And suddenly the pack just gets heavier and heavier. We're carrying our worries on our backs, and it challenges us. St. Francis is, again, a good example to us. He was born into great wealth in a family of some stature. He was born into a system and a world where it would have been easy to embrace his role in high society, but instead he emptied himself, giving away all that he had in pursuit of simplicity, believing that simplicity would draw him closer to God and allow him to be a better reflection of Christ's love, Christ's grace, Christ's mercy, and the way that we're supposed to live into those things. And I suspect that on some level this is true for each of us, because as we attach ourselves to things, they burden us in ways, and they remind us not only of good things, but also of our worries, perhaps. Now, I'd say, having filled an entire shipping container with all of my stuff, it's a pretty, we're all probably pretty good at self-justification about the way these things help us live into our life of faith. I've got not one, but two really nice prayer books. And both are important to me for a variety of reasons. My wife gave me one when we visited Swanee, the seminary we would eventually move to and I would attend. The other belonged to a great mentor of mine, and his name is inscribed on the cover. And both of those prayer books help remind me of things that were instilled into me in my faith. However, neither are the bedrock of my faith. If both were lost to me, I could still proclaim the faith of Christ crucified. I could still convey the power of Jesus that lives within me. I could still offer the sacraments. Frankly, any of the books of common prayer in the pew in front of you are sufficient for us to do this. It's not something that I need for my walk of faith. There's something I just cling to because I like them. Suspect if we wandered home, we'd probably find not just the rooms, but the closets in the garage too, filled with items like this. And I don't know, what to make of that, especially in light of the fact that this isn't an isolated incident in the Gospels. Frankly, it's a pretty well recurring theme as Jesus instructs people on how to live into life in God. Now, my hope and my prayer for us is that we might not focus our energy on the stuff, that we might try to cast away some of the attachment to it, even if we don't cast away the items themselves, and instead might reflect in our own lives what it is that's preventing us from fully living into the gospel, what's preventing us from proclaiming the gospel through our words and through our deeds. It was St. Francis also who said, preach the word always, live always, use words when necessary. And I think this notion, even the words sometimes get in our way, in our hesitancy to step forward in faith and proclaim the gospel. But instead, maybe we all ought to have a garage sale too. I don't know. But I'll leave that to each of you to reflect on your own. But instead of focusing on that and the possession aspect, I hope that this week you might reflect on what are the barriers to living fully in the gospel and proclaiming God's love, mercy, and grace. And I'd like you also to reflect on what it is that enables you. And I think that in doing that, in that time of reflection about what's getting in the way and what's helping us, I think we'll best be able to focus our time and energy in the areas where it'll make the biggest difference for us. And probably, whether we get rid of the things or remove the whatever groups or whatever it is might be distracting us or not, they'll find their place in our lives diminished. And the things that exalt God, the things that help us live fully into the discipleship which Christ calls us to, will be amplified. And through that, God's love might be known. God's grace might be proclaimed. And we might all find our eternal life in Jesus.
Amen.